We've got some breaking news out of college football where Georgia quarterback Carson Beck is entering the transfer portal. That has been confirmed by our Matt Zenitz. Beck has spent the past 5 years in Athens serving as the Bulldogs starting quarterback in each of the past 2 seasons. This year, he threw for 28 touchdowns and an SEC leading 12 interceptions before suffering a season-ending elbow injury in the SEC title game and missing that Sugar Bowl loss to Notre Dame. Now, Beck declared for the NFL draft in late December, and had he decided to go that route, he was considered the number 5 quarterback according to the CBS Sports prospect rankings. And a guy who knows all about rankings and mock drafts is our mock draft analyst, Ryan Wilson. Always good to see you, Ryan. Carson Beck, a lot has changed for him over the past couple of weeks because at the end of December, he's declaring for the draft. Now we're hearing that he's entering the transfer portal, but there is still some time, Ryan, for him to change his mind. But your initial reaction to the very latest development in Carson Beck saying that he's going to hit the transfer portal?
Love it. I love it. I love it. I think it's the right move for him professionally if his future is to be an NFL quarterback. Because remember, Jacqueline, back over the summer when we with the First Pick podcast, me and Rick Spielman and Mike Renner all had Carson Beck as our QB1, and that was not uncommon both in media and in NFL circles. And then that season happened, and you talked about the 12 interceptions that came in a 3 or 4 game span in the middle of the season, where it just became more and more difficult to figure out what Carson Beck was seeing and why he was seeing it the way he was. And the prevailing wisdom was that if he had eligibility left, he should consider coming back, because he went from a legit first-round talent to probably a second, third-round pick, maybe even slipping into day 3. And you see it here with this graphic. Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders did all the right things on the field, and that's why they moved their way up the draft board. Jalen Milroe has declared, I'm of the opinion that maybe he should come back. And Quinn Ewers, who's been in the first-round conversation for what feels like forever, is also considering coming back for one more year, whether it's at Texas or somewhere else. So thumbs up to Carson Beck for this. He didn't end the season the way he wanted to, Jacqueline, with that elbow injury in the conference championship game against Texas. So I think he has one more chance to prove himself and to prove the skeptics wrong in terms of the way he played this year and why he played that way. I would imagine he's gotten feedback that says he's probably not going to be a top 100 pick and maybe even slipping into day 3, and that maybe has informed his decision. But either way, count me in as a big proponent of Carson Beck returning to school, wherever that may be.
Yeah, and it kind of feels like deja vu. You know, we saw Cam Ward number 1 in those quarterback rankings, and it was, what, a year ago where Cam Ward declared for the draft and then got paid and went to UM. Is this maybe a little bit of foreshadowing? Are we going to see Carson Beck go to Miami? Or what are some natural fits that you can think of when you think of teams that have a quarterback need? And Miami is certainly one of them.
Yeah, I'm laughing because where's Danny Cannell and BMAC? Because I would imagine Florida State would love to have someone like Carson Beck as well. The other thing to keep in mind, too, Jacqueline, is this. He's going to make way more money in college next year as the legit number 1 for wherever he ends up than had he been a 4th-round pick, for example, where number 1, the money isn't guaranteed, and you're not guaranteed to make a roster, although quarterbacks drafted 3rd, 4th, 5th round typically have 1 year at least on an NFL roster. But when he goes to wherever he ends up, those 7 figures are going to be pretty impressive compared to whatever the rookie salary might have been had he gone that route. To your point, Cam Ward certainly made a lot of money going to Miami, probably more money than had he been drafted, because a year ago at this time, and you talk to NFL scouts, Cam Ward was a day 3 guy, and he certainly helped himself and elevated his draft stock, and that has to be the plan of attack for Carson Beck going forward. I'm all for quarterbacks playing as long as they can in college and getting as much experience as possible. Look at Jaden Daniels, look at Bo Nix, both guys who were not first-round talents going into last season, and Bo Nix wasn't a first-round pick in my mind up until the moment that he got drafted 12th overall, and he's had a fantastic season. So the more football, the better. And if you're getting paid while you're doing it, more than you would have gotten paid at a professional job, quote unquote, go for it, Carson Beck, and then take the most of that opportunity.
Yeah, if you can lean into the development aspect of it at the college level, because we know at the NFL, they throw you out there and they give you a couple of games, and then it's like, you're a bust all of a sudden. That's the narrative. So we showed that with Carson Beck being projected as maybe a 3rd-round guy if he had entered the draft this year. But what does he need to show you, Ryan, to maybe follow in the footsteps of Cam Ward in that conversation where, hey, maybe going from a day 3 guy to being in the conversation for the number 1 overall pick?
Oh, he's going to be back in the conversation for the QB1 next year if he does return to school, Jacqueline, because the measurables are there. The physical talent is there. He's actually a really good athlete, but he was the best pocket passer last summer coming into this fall. Big arm. He was playing on time. He got the ball to his playmakers, didn't make a lot of mistakes. And the issue with the 2024 season for him at Georgia was we saw a lot of those sort of harebrained, I can't explain why he made those throws type interceptions and poor decisions. And if he can get away from that and get back to doing what he did during the 2023 campaign, he will very much be in that first round conversation, QB1 conversation. Drew Aller, as we're sitting here at Penn State's coming back. Garrett Nussmeier at LSU is coming back. And those three guys right now are going to be among those we talk about as we look ahead to the next draft. We're not quite there yet. But if he minimizes the mistakes he made last fall, absolutely. And the thing is, had you flip-flopped those two seasons, had this 2023 season been what we saw last fall, he would be a first-round pick. So it just goes to show, what have you done for me lately? And you have to now explain away what happened last fall, and he can do that by having another good season in college wherever he ends up in 2025.
Ryan, my one wish, I just hope wherever he goes, and it probably will be a team that Florida plays, then when we are talking about him as a draft prospect, I don't have to have the Cam Ward experience where I'm seeing the highlight of him just like slicing up the Florida Gators every single time we're talking about him going potentially #1 overall. But that is my niche request. Ryan Wilson, always great to see you, my friend, diving into that latest news surrounding Carson Beck, where he says he is hopping in the transfer portal. For more from Ryan Wilson, you can hear him on the With the First Pick podcast alongside Rick Spielman, CBS Sports' NFL Draft Podcast. There are new episodes in your feed all year long, not just around the draft. You can download, follow, and listen wherever you get your pods, or you can scan that QR code on your screen. Here to join us for this breaking news is 24/7 Sports' Chris Hummer. Chris, always great to see you. Carson Beck is just another twist and turn in his career so far, declaring for the draft not too long ago, and now he's saying he's hopping into the transfer portal. What more can you tell us about how all this went down with Carson Beck?
Well, this is something we'd kind of been watching behind the scenes the last week or so. You have to sign with an agent officially to be locked into the draft, and that had not happened up to this point for Carson Beck. And as long as that hadn't happened yet, college teams were free to, maybe tamper a little bit on the back end. And I think that's exactly what happened in this circumstance. College quarterbacks, as we've talked about before on HQ, are making, in some cases, $4 million going into 2025. Like, the market is there. I don't know exactly what a day 2 draft pick gets in the NFL, but I would imagine the college salary is very competitive. And this is a similar situation to what we saw 1 year ago with Cam Ward. He originally declared for the draft, and ultimately a couple weeks later, after doing so, backed out and decided to return to college and attend Miami. That worked out amazing for him. He went from a likely day 3 draft pick to being maybe QB1 in the 2025 NFL draft, and it seems like that's the path Carson Beck is looking to take.
Yeah, and just to piggyback off of that, because to your point, it seems like he's following in the footsteps of Cam Ward, because Cam Ward, we just talked about with Ryan Wilson, went from potentially a day 3 guy to now being in the conversation for the #1 overall pick. Is Miami, obviously the rumors are already swirling and this news has been up for not even an hour, but is Miami a natural fit? What other programs come to mind for you? Our producer has been throwing out UNC potentially with Bill Belichick. What are you hearing, or what seems like a good fit for Carson Beck? Is it Miami, or are there others that come to mind?
Yeah, there aren't a ton of programs, at least upper level programs, looking for quarterbacks at this point. Most of those spots are filled. So it's pretty easy to play connect the dots. Of course, like, UNC would make some sense for Carson Beck if Bill Belichick wanted to go that direction. They attacked John Mateer in the portal very aggressively. I could see them making a run at Carson Beck again, but Miami is the natural fit here. I'd probably turn them a very early favorite in this process, even though Carson Beck hasn't stepped in the portal. Miami has aggressively pursued quarterback transfer options behind the scenes the last couple weeks, really since their bowl game when Emory Williams had a up and down effort for the Hurricanes. And Miami has largely struck out to this point. I can think of several guys they were hoping would go in that ultimately did not. But Carson Beck represents an opportunity for Miami to rectify their quarterback room. We've seen how aggressive they can be in terms of getting a player to return to school like we saw last year with Cam Ward. And I would not at all be shocked to see Miami do that again with Carson Beck in this situation.
So if that does happen, that comes to fruition, and Carson Beck goes the Cam Ward route and goes to Miami, what do you need to see from him there? And how far does he necessarily need to take Miami for him to, be considered a day one, day two guy? Oh, we have a cat on the broadcast. My absolute favorite thing ever. But Chris, back on track. Carson Beck, what do you need to see from him moving forward to feel like this was the right decision for him?
Yeah, my cat's a big Carson Beck fan. I apologize.
Hey, we'll take it.
Carson, to make this the right decision, needs to do what we expected him to going into this year, which is emerge as a day one draft pick. He was QB1 for a lot of people going into the year. Obviously, he's lost that status in a really weak draft class, frankly. This is, of all draft classes as quarterbacks come out, this is the one. There's no sure thing at the top, including Cam Ward and Shadur Sanders. But Carson Beck, due to a combination of turnovers and injuries, really didn't have that happen for him at Georgia this year. Now it seems like both sides are at least moving on, and he needs to go wherever he goes, if that's Miami, and return to form. Miami gives him that opportunity, you would think. They have one of the best offensive lines in college football and have shown the ability to put skill pieces around quarterbacks. So if he goes there, he needs to do what Cam Ward did this season, throw for a lot of yards and fix your draft stock.
Yeah, and don't turn the ball over as much. Chris, wait, what is your cat's name, by the way?
Marlin, like the fish.
Okay, Marlin. Send Marlin our regards, Chris. We certainly appreciate it. Joining us for this breaking news here on HQ, Carson Beck saying he's hitting the transfer portal. Chris, Marlin, the 24/7 Sports crew, they do a fantastic job. Team coverage, recruiting rankings, transfer portal updates, all of the things. Make sure you check them out at 247sports.com. And, of course, you can check out their YouTube channel as well.